101 most misunderstood verses. All right, so let's turn our attention to Rockabye Baby Waves. Was Moses set afloat on the Nile? I never heard it any other way. I'm taking a course in Exodus. We're translating the whole book of Exodus, and we hit this section, and it's when I translated it. I went, oh my. Oh my. This does not say he said this whole idea of Moses being set afloat. But let's look at it, because it's what I do. So after years of sermons and movies on Moses, one thing is clear. People don't know how to read. Imagination is often more powerful than the actual text. I do a thing on David and Goliath, on where David hit Goliath. And this one freaks people out. They can't get past the imagination or the artwork or the flanagraphs. You can't be right because that's not what the flanagraphs were in my Sunday school class growing up. But so sometimes our imaginations get the best of us. And this is another one. It's just like with the last one, with the birthing stools, the translators. I don't blame people for reading a text that says birthing stools and thinking it says birthing stools. Of course they do. That's what it's translated. There, the imaginativeness is among the scholars who are trying to figure out what this word could possibly mean in its context, because they know it's not a potter's wheel. So here, we're dealing with another one where we just have this imagination that gets the better of us, and we're actually not paying attention to the details of the text. So preachers, Sunday school teachers, and movie makers are convinced that little baby Moses was set adrift on the Nile. So this is an excerpt from a Christian blog called When Love Takes You In. Entrapped by a vicious Pharaoh, an order goes out that all male children are to be killed by drowning in the Nile River. Jochebed, a pregnant Hebrew, took great pains to conceal the birth of her son, keeping him hidden until he was about 3 months old. At that time, she carefully placed her little infant in a waterproof basket and set him down the Nile in hopes that he be found and his life spared. Ooh, gives me tingles. Right. So even academics who should be more careful buy into this imaginative vision. So here's Bruce Wells in the Exodus section in the Zondervan Illustrated Bible Backgrounds Commentary. Like Moses, his mother, Sargon's mother, places her baby in a reed basket, seals it, and sets it adrift on a river. We're going to deal with this Sargon character in a minute, because Sargon, according to the traditions, was set adrift. This ends up becoming a common story. Just like we have 6 well stories in the Bible, we've got this baby afloat story permeating literature of the ancient world, this concept. All right, so here we got the artist's pictures. Now, this basket is kind of ridiculous because there's no way that baby's not toppling its own self. That kid is not protected in any given way, but it's got this certain effect. And then we've got Miriam hiding in the bushes, hiding among the reeds, watching him. Here we got this one. I don't know, some acrobat, I'm assuming it's Miriam, saving the poor baby, keeping track of him, following him wherever he goes to make sure that he's safe. Now, I don't know why we have a lily white baby in a basket among the ancient Near Eastern people, but, okay, all right, that's what we're doing here. It's a little bit closer here, but of course now they've given him a fro. So this is interesting. But again, a super big baby in a basket that barely stays an inch above the water. That kid wouldn't last an hour. Now we have the big one, the Prince of Egypt. We love this scene. She's following after the baby. Now this one's at least the baby's got a cover on it. It is made to look like a little ark, which is interesting because that is the word that is used for, you know the old joke, how many animals were on Moses' ark? How many animals were on Moses' ark?
None.
And people say none because Moses didn't have an ark. But au contraire, Moses did have an ark. That's what it's called. Now this, like the ark, is covered in bitumen and pitch inside and out to make it watertight, right? Keep him safe and dry. But in the Prince of Egypt, we got this massive scene where this baby's going along. Now this one's very interesting because we get some mystical creatures there and some guy wandering by and some naked kid, and I don't really understand this, but this city in the background here. But here's this baby comes floating down the river, and this woman's like, reaching for this baby, but for some reason she's looking at the guy that's behind her instead of looking at the baby that she's trying to grab out of the water. Never lean into a river in Egypt without looking where you're going because the crocs are waiting for you. I love this one, little jokey joke. Trying to put Moses into the Nile, and he parts the Nile. All right, so we're back to the Prince of Egypt. The mother, she's waist deep in the water, getting ready to set her little precious one afloat. Again, he's floating away. Miriam's following behind him. Oh, the waves are getting rocking. The fish are jumping over. I don't know why the fish want to jump over this. Whether they think, this floating thing is an actual invitation to an obstacle course. But here the fish are jumping over it. She's running. She's terrified. What will become of it? Oh, crocodiles are trying to grab the basket, but they make a wave and it pushes out of their mouth. Oh, until it floats straight into the palace. Of course, this is not what the text actually says happens. All right. So, but this is an ancient classic tale. All right. So the legendary founder and the first king of Rome, Romulus and Remus, the twin brothers, were sons of Mars and a Vestal virgin, Rhea Silvia. The war god having forced Rhea Silvia, the infants were set adrift in a small boat on the flooded Tiber River, but it was washed ashore, and they were rescued and suckled by a she-wolf to survive and to become the founders of Rome. Perseus, one of the most celebrated of the Greek heroes, his story basically is his mother, Danae, I don't know looking how to pronounce that, was locked in a bronze chamber by her father, Acrisios, where she was impregnated by Zeus in the form of a golden shower. And I have shared this, and whenever I share it, young people giggle. Apparently that means something completely different today. Acrisios puts both the mother and the child in a chest and sets them adrift in the sea, but they are washed safely ashore in the island of Seriphos. All right. I really hate some. I'm going to butcher some of these names, so people are going to have to forgive me. Vyas's Mahabharata gives us an unforgettably touching picture of how the young woman takes her newborn child to the Ashwa River and floats him in it as soon as he is born. Kunti talks of her Datri and gets a box. She spreads soft clothes inside it, then covers all the joints with wax so that no water enters it. After this is done, she places the sleeping child in it and, taking it to the river Ashwa near midnight, floats him down the river. Baby Sargent, which we referenced earlier, nestled in a reed basket sealed with bitumen, was placed in the Euphrates River. The basket floated until it was rescued by a gardener or a date grower. In this capacity, he worked for the king of Kish, Urzaba, until he rose in the ranks to become the king's cupbearer. All right, and we have all these stories. Now, some people will say that because the stories are repeated, that means they're false. They're fake. They're just drama. Not so. We have stories that we tell, repeated stories. Right? How many rom-coms or romantic stories do you have? What I call the rush to the airport love confession. How many of them? How many love stories begin in a bar? How many loves? We have patterns to our existence, patterns to our life, ways that we meet people. Well, in the same thing in the ancient world, you had well stories. Because where were men and women supposed to have a meet and greet except at the local well when man world and woman world was kept so separate? So you have a pattern to their life, and the pattern of their life gives birth to patterns of relationships, patterns to, it's like when I'm in India and I'm watching the Indian movies, the recurring theme that happens in several movies that I've seen is that a man wants to marry a woman. The woman will be offensive to the man's parents in some way. And so he wants to find a way to trick the mother and father into loving the girl when they don't know that she's his would-be wife, so that they will accept her as the would-be wife. And so the tricks can be like one guy brings this American girl and asks her to be as offensive as possible. She introduces the American girl as his future wife, and she is to be rude. And every time she's rude and offensive, her friend, the Indian girl, who is also a Muslim girl, because he's afraid the Hindu parents won't embrace the Muslim wife, the Muslim woman as wife. So she corrects the American girl and corrects the American girl and corrects the American girl until the parents begin to love the friend and appreciate the friend and value the friend. And then when it's the big reveal, the friend is really the one that I want to marry, and they love her. Oh, well, there are patterns. When you have arranged marriages, patterns are going to emerge, and you're going to have the same scenario again and again and again. So it's not necessarily uncommon in certain societies for even something like this to happen to a lot of different kids. What do we have? We have something similar to this. The baby in a basket left on the convent steps.
Or at the fire station.
Or at the fire station, right? ring the doorbell, run away, open up, oh, baby, bring the baby in the house, right? We have this pattern. Why do we have this pattern? Because this was a pattern that emerged. Now, our pattern is just murder the little home wrecker. Murder the kid, kill the kid. We don't, but back in the day, when life was precious and this baby was precious, now there were women who got abortions, and there have always been women who are so determined not to pay the consequences for their actions that they are determined to kill the child so that they don't have to live a different kind of life. But it was far more common for them to try and save the baby in some way, to put in circumstances. Now, to put the child into circumstances in which the child has the potential of being saved. So there's this thing in the ancient world called ordeal. And there were river ordeals, but there were different kinds of ordeals. The ordeal was like a person is put into the maw of death, and opportunity for divine deliverance is laid out. So it's like, you ever notice the Batman's always been getting put into weird human traps. And then, of course, they set the trap to go, and in 1 hour, you'll be torn to pieces, but I'm going to leave right now, and I'm not going to watch, because I'm sure you'll never get out of it. And then Batman, who's got something in his waistband, or learns if I just wiggle my left ear, and I do that, and then he undoes the trap, and he saves himself. So he gets rescued out of the mouth of death. This is ordeal. The concept was that if you were guilty, death would ensue. If you were innocent, then the gods would deliver you from the maw of death. And so in the Babylonians, if an accusation was made against you, you would be tied up and tossed into the river. If you would get out of the river alive, you're innocent. And the person who accused you would be executed for making a false accusation. If you drown, well, you must have been guilty. It's called a river ordeal. So we actually have these kinds of natural ordeals. David and Goliath is an ordeal. It's a contest ordeal. Two men fighting, each putting themselves into the hands of their gods in order to battle it out. And the victor is decreed by divine selection to be saved. So Jonah, who gets thrown into the ocean and is drowning, but God sends the whale, the big fish, to scoop him up and to deliver him. This is ordeal. This is God's forgiveness. This is God's deliverance.
What about the snake that bit Paul? And he shook off
a similar type of thing. Yes, you're cast either deliberately or accidentally into the mouth of death. You are delivered from death, from sure death, by the divine. Jesus' resurrection is an ordeal. Only he's not saved from the mouth of death. He's saved from death. He is resurrected out of death. This is the ultimate ordeal. I was killed and made alive again because I was innocent and have been decreed innocent by resurrection, been decreed acceptable by resurrection. So you're going to have all these kinds of things. So you've got the passing through the Red Sea. Moses parts the Red Sea. The Israelites pass through unharmed. What happens to the Egyptians when they go through? God closes the waters on them. First group, innocent. Second group, guilty. Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den. And the Holy Spirit, the angels of the Lord, shuts the mouth of the lions, right? The king comes out. Daniel, has your God delivered you? Yes, I'm unharmed. Pull him out. Take the men who accused him. Throw them in. What happens to them?
Burn.
They're dead before they hit the ground. They're crushed by the lions. The lions leap up to meet them in the air to break their bones before they even hit the ground. This is ordeal.
The two in the furnace?
The three Hebrew boys in the furnace, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who refuse to worship the idol of the king and are cast into the fire. Well, the fire is so hot that the men that are casting them into the fire die. Who's guilty? Those who die are guilty. Those who are rescued are innocent. God steps in, decrees their innocence. Right? This is ordeal. This happens throughout the scriptures. So this scene here is an ordeal type of scenario. Baptism is a type of ordeal, an entrance into death. The crossing of the Jordan is an ordeal scenario. You're going through the waters. You're passing through the waters. You're passing through the fires. You know, death should have taken you, but you are preserved from it. You were brought alive through it. Right? Common in the ancient world. So for this kind of thing. So it would not, in a society that believes in ordeals, it would not be surprising for them to make such a statement of a child. I cannot care for this child, but I care for the child. I care for the child, but I cannot care for the child. I cannot take care of this child. I have to put the child, and you put it in a basket and you float it down. I have a feeling this is probably something, especially if you live on a river, something that happened to you. Go into the hands of the Lord, kind of scenario. So the fact that it happens again and again is not necessarily like modern people take proof that it didn't happen, but is actually more likely to be part of a paradigm of behavior. When there were no orphanages and you didn't know what to do, and
when the Pharaoh decreed that all these boys die.
Right. Well, so this is the question: is this what this recurring theme of setting the child afloat on the river? Is this what Jochebed did? I don't think so. We're going to have to look at it because I don't believe that's exactly what she did. So let's look at what she actually says. It's a common version, okay? It's a powerful foreshadowing of the passage through the Red Sea, of Jonah's salvation from the depths. The picture is meaningful reflection of Noah's salvation upon the waters. Literally, it's called an ark, right? It's called an ark. You pass through the waters. So the story of Noah is an ordeal. Noah and his family found innocent, delivered from death, preserved. They come through the waters alive. It's a powerful ancient Near Eastern ordeal symbol. But it's a fiction of our imaginations in this story. It's not. Let's read the text. And we're reading from Exodus 2, 1 through 5. Now a man from the house of Levi went and took his wife, a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, because he's going to be too squawky and noisy and loud and want to play and can't be, she took for him a basket made of bulrushes and daubed it with bitumen and pitch. This is ark imagery. This is what I meant. We talked a little while bit ago about typology. Typology is something that a writer does to interpret the present by reflecting or using the imagery of something known and past. This is not an accident. This basket is called an ark, right? It's called the same word as Noah's Ark is used for this, and it is bitumen and pitch. This is exactly what was put on the ark. Same word, same stuff. So he's kind of picturing this as an ark image, right? She puts the child in the basket. Now, here's the Hebrew, and she set him among the suf, right? The reeds. Set him among the reeds upon the lip of the Nile, of the river. She set it amid the reeds upon the lip of the river.
So she didn't set him afloat.
She did not put him floating in the river. She set him among the reeds on the lip of the river. And some people thought, well, that must have been how she launched him. That must have been the launching pad. We're going to look at these in a second. We're going to actually look physically at what them. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. She's basically looking out for him. She's staying close. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river while her young women walked beside the river. She saw the basket among the reeds. She did not see the basket floating down the river. Crocodiles snomping at it, fish jumping over it. She saw it among the reeds and sent her servant woman, and she took it, brought it to her. So the images hold for the powerful pictures of ordeal. The child cast into the hands of Yahweh, saved from the waters, ironically received back by his mother, destined for greatness. In other words, he receives him back from the dead, right? But more likely what she's doing here is she's hiding him by day. When the military is about, when the homes can be checked. When the nighttime comes, you bring him home. I'm guessing here that what we have is a daily routine. This is not just set him afloat, let what happens to him, and go away. But that she cannot hide him by day. So like in the home, she can know he's too loud, he's too noisy. He's going to get them caught, and then the soldiers will kill him. So at night, when ain't nobody going around, because they live in their own towns, they live in their own cities. They are forced to labor for a certain period of the year, but the rest of the year they're plowing their fields, they're doing their shepherding, they're doing what they do, right? And they have their own homes, their own towns, their own villages. All right. So by night he's brought home probably, but we're speculating here. By day he's hidden here among the reeds, and the sister is sent to hang around near him to make sure that nothing bad happens to him. And their text says nothing about being set adrift, nothing about floating to his destiny, and no terms for abandonment. It's still an ordeal image, the idea of putting him upon the waters. putting him there to be seen, to be looked out for, but just set there among the reeds. All right, so here's what the reeds look like. All right, this is not some loose thing floating down the river, bouncing among the reeds. These are very dense things. You're hid in the reeds on the lip of the river. On
alligators, crocodiles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't put any of crocodiles in here. But the crocodiles back then they've been huge because they're old. So you're hiding. This is the water's edge. All right. This is the kind of stuff. This is not some thin little sparse thing. When we say hid among the reeds, we have this vision of American streams with little the pussy cat o' nine tails and the pussy willows just growing out of the water with a little bit here. Oh no. He is hidden. He is stashed away.
Would that have muffled his cries as well?
It probably would have helped. They probably went out somewhere where like nobody goes. So the princess, the speculation is that she was actually doing a ritual cleansing for a birth, or I mean not for a birth, for a marriage or something like that. Some kind of ritual cleansing was part of their religious ceremonies and her responsibilities on who she is in Pharaoh's house to do certain types of prayers and whatnot. So they would have gone someplace, if they're going to do these ritual bathings, where they could have had some privacy, right? Where they're not being spied upon by men.
To put your child on the reeds every day, that doesn't make sense to me, because babies grow, they get more active. You're not going to keep them in a little basket or anything like that. Could it be more intentional? Yes, in the reeds, but more intentional on placement, knowing that she was coming down here.
This is where the text is a little silent for us. So we can, like I said, it's tough to imagine the psychology of the whole thing. Can imagine that he's getting too big to be hidden in the house. They've got to do something with him. I imagine them putting him there by day, taking him home by night, stashing him, having a sister kind of hang nearby, out in a place where he won't be discovered. There are some people who speculated that she put him where she put him because this was a place for ritual bathing for some of the royalty. Perhaps, we don't know. Of course, I love in Egypt, the Prince of Egypt. Oh, this must be a Hebrew baby. Look at this blanket. yeah. They knew this was a Hebrew boy because of the blanket. No, because the Hebrews practiced infant circumcision. Right. The Egyptians practiced circumcision too, but it was actually connected to puberty. Rites of passage for older children.
But being back then in a large community, but still a community, where everybody knew each other's stuff, they would know which lady to hit up. Maybe she couldn't have children, and they knew it, or...
This is where the text is very silent. We can speculate, like I'm even speculating. Like all I'm saying about this is she did not set him adrift. She's hiding him among the reeds, very specifically. He's not going anywhere. You saw the reeds.
Instead, she's putting him on the doorstep.
She's putting him on the reeds on the lip of the river, not in the river, on the lip of the river, among the reeds, thick like a canebrake, hard to get to, probably fairly safe from larger predators, who cannot necessarily push through this canebrake, but humans who are smart can. Hiding him by day, perhaps bringing him home by night. Maybe he's found the first day she hides him. We don't know. Do we know that she knew that the Pharaoh's daughter was going to be coming here? That she knew she was in a place of specific rituals? Perchance. The text is sparse here. But one thing we do know is she did not set him adrift. This is not a replication of what happened to Sargon. This is still an ordeal image, though. Putting him into the hands of God. Here, Lord, I can't do this, but I'm going to put him here. Abandon him? We don't know. The text is too sparse. It's not telling us enough. But the one thing we do know is that he was not set adrift. But the imagination can get us. We imagine this thing because isn't it so much more exciting? The crocodiles biting at the basket, fish jumping over it, going down waterfalls, spinning. Oh, way more exciting. I'm really sorry to wreck the story for everybody. It's way more exciting to have this kind of spin out kind of thing where he floats to his destiny. This is one of the reasons it's so popular. This is because it seems like such a much better story.
But it doesn't make sense, because by the time a baby is 3 months old, they're rolling. You're not just going to put them in a
Well,
basket because they're going to be
They would.
rolling and-
She probably would have bound him in rags,
Oh, really?
You swaddled them up.
swaddled him up so that he couldn't move a lot. 3 months, hard to do, but probably would have been a necessary thing, you know. But his sister is sat nearby, and she's kind of keeping an eye on things. And of course, in the Prince of Egypt, she's got him running. She's running down the riverbank. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! As opposed to Set as his watchtower. Set as his guard, his guy.
She had to be feeding him too.
Probably, yes. So this is what this is the thing. The story's not telling us. The only thing it is telling us, though, is that she did not set him adrift. And yet that's the thing that everybody's got their head on. All right. So the text is sparse. It says little about his mother's long-term intentions. So we're going to ask 3 questions. Was he too noisy to hide by day, so he's hidden by the river's edge with his sister to set as a watch from a distance? Is he abandoned to the reeds? But his sister can't peel herself away. She has to stay. She has to look and see what's going to come of this. Okay? It's only our imaginations that answer these questions. We're not 100% sure. But we still have the ordeal image here. God's hand is still on him. Circumstances are still coming. I don't need it to be more exciting than the story. The story is what the story is. I want to read it accurately. And it's going to be very important. So, I mean, I've had some people get upset with me over, like, when I do the David and Goliath one. They're like, "You wrecking the story on me." No, I'm reading the story. I'm just reading the story. Let's pay attention to the details. I don't need to make the Bible more exciting than it is. It's exciting enough. She hides him in the reeds. Pharaoh finds him. She knows it's one of the Hebrew children. She has pity on him. She brings him into her house. God has sent a deliverer. It's like the Joseph story, where Joseph was sent ahead. And of course, all the evil intentions of his brothers were redeemed by God and turned into the good. All the evil intentions of Pharaoh set up the very scenario by which a deliverer for those people is born and brought into his own house and cared for and protected, and in a position to do unique good for them. His training. He would have been trained in warfare. He would have been trained in strategy. He would have been trained in linguistics and history and geography and all the different stuff that the royals were trained in order to be the leaders. Pharaoh raised and trained the leader for the people of Israel, a person who understood law and whatever philosophy there was to understand at the time, and learned in all of these things. And God sends him ahead through this miraculous situation, receiving him back from the waters, because the image of the waters is the same whether you set him afloat on it or not. He's put into the waters, which is the image of death, and he is received back alive again. Again, it's also an image of resurrection. Just like Noah goes into the waters and comes through alive. Just like Jonah goes into the waters and comes through alive. Jesus is going to do it better than anybody, because he's actually going to die and come back from death. These other ones, Isaac is received back from the dead because he was set out to be a sacrificial victim. But he's received back alive again. Delivered from the maw of death by God. This is ordeal. This is also ordeal imagery. Right? Passing through the Red Sea. They pass through the waters, which is the very image of death. And they pass through alive. The Egyptians go in, they're destroyed. Daniel passes through the lion's den and comes out alive. Those who accused him are crushed and killed by the lions. The Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego set into the fires. But the men who put them there die from the flames, but they walk through the fires unharmed, unhurt. And there was a fourth man in the fire with them, keeping them. And Nebuchadnezzar repents, falls on his face, repents, realizes that he is dealing with something bigger than anything he's ever dealt with. And so we don't want to miss this imagery, the importance of this imagery, as God miraculously delivers Moses from the death command that was put out for him by Pharaoh's own daughter, who brings him into the house and to train him to be the deliverer and the leader for a new people. This is the hand of God.
What Satan means for harm, God turns it to good.
Yeah. You meant it for harm, God meant it for good. He redeems. He loves to redeem broken situations. He loves to redeem broken people. If you like what you're hearing today, please subscribe below, and don't forget to share it on as many platforms as you can, and tell your friends to watch. Thank you.